Yeah, they tune in, it's the dude bass rolling deep. Mic check like that, file, let's hit a beat. Voices flowing like the river, knowledge on the spree. Every episode of Journey, come ride with me. Just hit play, it's a vibe, can't you see? The dude bass, we breaking it down. From the underground to the top of the town. Life's effects, intertwined, wearing the crown. Podcast kings and queens, we wearing the gown.
Top 5 movies of all time for the Dude Crew. So we're going to start this out talking about movies, all right? Daniel, you want to toss? You're going to go first. Tell us right now what your top 5 movies of all times are.
I will give you my top 5. Do you want them? Do you want them in reverse, like 5 to 1, or do you want them 1 to 5?
Hey, give them how you want to give them. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Let's do 5 to 1.
5 to 1. Here it comes, baby, right here. You're not going to get better movies than these right here. I guarantee it.
All right.
Number five is a movie called Rounders.
Ooh, Rounders. Never heard of it.
Number four is Stand By Me.
Love it.
Number 3 is The Prestige.
Ooh.
Number 2 is Sleepers. And number 1, all-time greatest movie in the world, The Godfather. You're not going to beat it.
Oh, wow, that's a diverse set of movies, man. And it's not a lot of movies I've watched.
Now, which Godfather?
Well, y'all know I haven't seen The Godfather.
You're missing out.
Rounders, I've never heard of. I'm going to look it up while we're talking about it here real quick.
So Rounders.
Which Godfather?
No, just part 1. I'm just talking about part 1. It's Godfather Part 1, 1972. Al Pacino. Don't get any better than that. It just don't.
No, this is Godfather, right?
What?
That we're talking about.
Yeah, he was talking. He was asking me which one, because they made 3 Godfather movies: Godfather 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And
most people have Godfather Part 2 as the best one out of the trilogy.
A lot of people do. A lot of people have Part 2 as their favorite because of the backstory with Vito. Robert De Niro plays Vito Corleone, the young Vito Corleone in The Godfather Part 2, and completely blows it out of the water. Like it's probably the greatest movie sequel ever made. But my personal favorite, yes, my personal favorite is the original. Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan, Robert Duvall, Talia Shire. Like it's got tons of people in it.
Now, let me ask you a question, because a lot of people, when they talk about gangster movies, you know, you always hear about The Godfather. So what's a better movie, The Godfather or Scarface? What's the difference in them? I've never seen either one of them.
The Godfather, hands down. So
really?
Yeah. So The Godfather is about a mafia family in the 1940s. And that's, you know, they've got this empire, and basically what was going on in the movie. And I don't know exactly in real mafia, like what was happening during that time, and if they had the same kind of issues as what the movie portrayed. But in the movie, what was going on was the Corleone family and 4 other main crime families in New York all shared a piece of unions. They made money off unions. They made money off of gambling. They made money off of prostitution. And that was kind of where the main money was made. And so what happened was this old dude from Sicily, he comes over, and he is wanting to start running drugs.
Yeah, baby.
And the younger members of the Corleone family was kind of talking to the Godfather, which is Marlon Brando, and they were trying to get him to do this deal and start running these drugs. And the Godfather he was just basically kind of like old school.
Mhm.
And so, and for, even though it was a movie about, crime and violence and stuff, it almost made the Corleone family look like good guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So you kind of forget, how they're actually making their money. And so the Godfather, which was played by Marlon Brando, he has a meeting with this old dude about running drugs, and he tells him that he doesn't want to run drugs, and it ends up becoming a huge war with the four other families that are wanting to run drugs. And because Marlon Brando is kind of the final say, they need his approval and his help, and he won't give it. And so it starts a big war. And so Al Pacino is his son, and Al Pacino starts off like he's in the army. He went to World War II and fought. He was like a war hero. He was a really good guy. He was telling his girlfriend, how bad the family was and how he wasn't gonna be like them and all this stuff. And then he gets drug into this war and ends up supporting his dad. And
Mm.
so in my opinion, it is the greatest movie ever made.
So let me ask you something. This is the movie where it's I'll make an offer you can't refuse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, Carl, I want you to eat. I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
Too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
That's good
That's pretty
stuff.
cool. That's good stuff.
That was Marlon Brando as the
Yes.
Godfather, and he was talking to his godson Johnny Fontaine, and Johnny Fontaine was a singer in in California in the movie, and he was kind of a whiner. Anything that he wanted, the Godfather made sure that he, got, and so he was just whining that he didn't want to sing anymore. He wanted to start becoming an actor. And so he was having problems with this movie producer over there. And so he was in that scene, he was whining to Marlon Brando about not getting this part in this movie. And so Marlon Brando ended up doing some shady things in
Some of
order
that
to get
gangster
him.
stuff.
Yeah, in order to get him the part. But you are severely, doing yourself a disservice by not watching this movie. You need to go out and watch this movie.
I don't know why I've not seen it, man. I don't. I really don't. Because everybody in the world loves it. I mean, you can't hear
Hey, it's
anybody that
great.
says
It's
it's
a
not a bad
great
movie.
movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah. Came out in
You come to me on the
1972.
day of my daughter's wedding and ask me
Yeah.
for a favor.
Yeah.
So,
Everybody's heard those quotes, it's got to be great.
so you were asking what the difference between The Godfather and Scarface was.
Yeah.
All right. So that was kind of what was going on in The Godfather. Okay. It was set in the 1940s. It showed you kind of the way that the mafia operated back then. The Corleone family were looked at as the kind of the good guys, and there was a lot of structure to the family. So you look over at Scarface. Scarface was a completely different movie. It came out somewhere between 1980 and 1983. I'm wanting to say that the movie came out like 83, but I can't remember the exact date. But Scarface has Al Pacino in it, and Al Pacino was also in The Godfather, but his character is completely different because in Scarface he's not playing an Italian gangster. In Scarface, he's playing a Cuban that was basically deported from Cuba. He spent time in the Cuban prison system, and it had a lot to do with kind of what was going on in Miami during that time in the early 80s. He ended up, a bunch of Cubans had come over and went to Miami, and that really happened in real life. There was just a huge influx of Cubans, and they came and crime started going sky high, and they had a lot of trouble because the people that were coming over, it wasn't all the good people, it was a lot of the bad people. And so Al Pacino was one of those bad people that ended up coming over from Cuba into Miami. And at first he started out just working some odd jobs and whatnot. And then he ended up getting with this guy and was running drugs for him. And so they went to do this deal, and the deal went bad, and one of his buddies got killed. But Al Pacino, killed everybody. And then he took the drugs, resold the drugs, and he started making a lot of money, and he got with a higher up drug man. And he ended up kind of being his number two until he finally basically just screwed him over and took over his business. And so then, because he was a drug runner, he was also doing, drugs himself.
A lot of drugs, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah. And he ended up screwing over this dude from Colombia that was wanting to move a lot of drugs in, but in order to get to work with him, he had to go do a hit on this person in New York. And so he went with that Colombians guys up to New York, and they were going to do this hit on this one dude, but his wife and his son ended up getting in a car with them. And so he wouldn't kill that guy. And so it made that Colombian dude mad, and he ended up killing some of the Colombians and whatnot, and the Colombians come after him. And that was kind of what was going on. So Scarface and The Godfather are two very much different movies, completely different movies, but both of them are really good in their own right. Scarface is actually one of my honorable mentions.
Really? I never would have picked you as a gangster guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, I love gangster movies. I love the mafia movies. All of them.
Man.
So what was some of your other movies? What is Rounders? I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Okay, so my number 5 is Rounders, and Rounders is all about poker. Poker, they play what is it? What is the game that they play in the World Series of Poker? What's the name?
Texas Hold'em.
Texas Hold'em. So that whole movie is about Texas Hold'em. And Matt Damon is real good friends with Edward Norton. And Edward Norton is kind of a troublemaker. And they're both of them are like super good at cards, at playing poker, but Edward Norton cheats. And like he ended up doing some stuff, got sent to prison. He was in prison for several years, but he had all this gambling debt and everything that he had run up. And so he finally got out of prison, and Matt Damon went to go pick him up. And immediately Edward Norton starts causing trouble for Matt Damon. And Matt Damon, like a few months before Edward Norton got out of prison, Matt Damon was playing cards against John Malkovich. And John Malkovich was like this Russian type gambler that was in New York. And he completely cleaned Matt Damon out. And so, like, he had hung up playing poker. He wasn't going to play poker no more. He wasn't going to gamble. He got with his girlfriend. He was going to law school. She had him.
Sounds like a good movie. Again, it's got that gangster vibe. I never would have guessed this from you. Total surprise. I didn't see a single Halloween movie on your.
No.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Not only is there not a Halloween movie, I don't think there's a scary movie on your list either.
No.
Yeah, that's crazy.
After he
Kind of shocked, actually.
Well, she got him back on the straight and narrow, and Edward Norton gets out of prison, and he's trying to get Matt Damon to start playing cards again, and he's always got some kind of scheme that he's running. Well, anyway, he ends up getting into trouble with John Malkovich, and John Malkovich has ties to the KGB, and so he's just like a really bad dude you don't want to mess with. and he gets Matt Damon in trouble with him. And like the whole movie is awesome. Like from start to finish, it's paced well. It's not too slow or anything, and it's all about playing cards, man. And after I watched that movie, that's what made me want to start learning how to play poker. It was just really good, and it's got a lot of good actors in it too. You know, like I said, Matt Damon's in it, and Edward Norton's in it. John Malkovich is in it. John Turturro is in it. So there's a lot of people that you've seen. So that's my number 5.
Okay. You said you got a couple honorable mentions. What you got?
Yeah. So my honorable mentions, here's probably the only scary type movie that's on there, but Silence of the Lambs.
Really? Okay.
That's one of my honorable mentions. The Deer Hunter. The Deer Hunter is not a scary movie, but it is about basically 4 friends that end up going to Vietnam, and they see some really bad stuff. And Christopher Walken is one of the friends, and he ends up getting left behind in Vietnam, and he kind of goes crazy. And so Robert De Niro is kind of like his best friend or whatever, and Robert De Niro has to go back to Vietnam to go try to save him, try to help him out.
I've seen that one. I think I've seen that one. It sounds really familiar.
Oh yeah.
And Rounders, I didn't realize I had watched that movie till you started describing it, but yeah, I've seen it.
Rounders is a good movie. But I think everybody knows Stand By Me. I think everybody has seen it. It's about, 4 friends, and every time I watch that movie, I think about me, Matt, and Corky, and Dusty and Travis, because we were real tight like that,
I've seen Rounders, but I ain't seen Saved by Me.
Stand By Me is a good movie.
It's a great movie.
You've never seen Stand By Me,
I have
Dustin?
never seen it. I've
seen
seen Rounders.
Once we get finished with the podcast, you need to go. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, that's bad, man. I mean, I know The Godfather is bad too, but
I've seen The Godfather, but I ain't never watched Scarface, so I don't know.
Well, my number 4 was Stand By Me. Number 3 was The Prestige, and The Prestige is about magicians, and it's kind of set in probably when would you say that is? Late 1800s, early 1900s? I don't know. It's whenever Edison was alive, because Edison isn't in it, but they talk about him. So Brent, you're Mr. History. When was Edison?
It's around 1890s, 1900s, 1910s in there.
Oh, okay. So about late 1800s, and they're magicians, and it's got Christian Bale, he's in it, and Hugh Jackman. And both of them start out.
That's a good movie.
It is. It's an awesome movie. Both of them are friends, and they're working for the same guy, the same magician. And then basically what happens is Hugh Jackman's wife ends up getting killed in one of their stunts, and Hugh Jackman blames Christian Bale. And so then for the rest of the movie, they're mortal enemies. They hate each other, and they're always trying to find a better trick. So one of them he'll develop some kind of new trick or whatever that starts making him a lot of money, and then the other one will he'll come run in and expose the trick, or he'll do something that eventually they started doing the stuff to each other that started hurting each other. But it's awesome. And then the one that I hadn't talked about yet is my number 2, and that's Sleepers. I just watched it the other night, and it's a great movie. It's again about 4 kids, real tight knit group. Well, it's set in the late 60s, and those 4 kids end up pulling a prank on a guy that ends up almost getting somebody killed. And so they end up getting sent to a juvenile detention center for a year. And Kevin Bacon is one of the prison guards. And
Really?
Kevin Bacon's got a little posse that basically he just tortures them and like treats them real bad, beats them up and stuff is really bad while they're incarcerated in his home. So whenever they get out, two of them end up becoming, like solid citizens. They're normal people, but the other two end up becoming murderers, like killers.
Oh yeah.
And so those two murderers wind up tracking Kevin Bacon down and killing him. And so one of their best friends, one of the ones that ended up turning good, he's a lawyer, and he ends up having to take a case, and they're trying to get revenge on basically Kevin Bacon and Kevin Bacon's little posse. So it's again, you're not going to go wrong watching either one of these movies, either one of these top 5 movies.
No, it don't seem, especially if you're into gangsters and mobsters and stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah. I mean,
I'll tell you, Daniel, I'm real surprised with your list. I'm honestly surprised.
I knew that you would, because I knew that
Yeah.
Brent, he was thinking he was closest, because he was thinking that I was going to say Godfather Part 2.
Right.
And he was close, but like Halloween, he was thinking Halloween was going to be on there.
Oh,
He was thinking
yeah.
Trick or Treat was going to be on there.
Now,
That's
if-
what I was figuring,
Man, I'm a lot deeper than just horror movies.
See, I'm not.
I've got good movies.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Horror movies are fantastic.
And I'm just saying, like, these movies are better than Halloween. Halloween is sacred to my own heart. Okay.
Yeah.
These movies here, man, they're like, it's talking about like friendship. You've got these friendships and these bonds and stuff. And the subject matter is just so deep with it, and it's got these great actors in it, all 5 of them. And you're not going to get you're not going to go wrong with watching any of them.
For real.
But
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm surprised with a lot of your picks. Is there before we move on, you got anything else you want to add?
well, what I was going to say is there's a couple of movies that are honorable mentions that probably are more kind of generalized. And one of them is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the whole trilogy. That's an honorable mention for me. And also the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, I love those. Golly,
Don't get a whole lot better than that. But they're in my honorable mentions list. But I highly recommend any one of them 5 movies. I highly recommend that any one of y'all go and watch either one of them, and you will not be disappointed.
I'll tell you, I'm going to eventually watch Scarface and Godfather. I know that for sure. So we'll switch gears to the younger guy in the group tonight. I'm anxious to hear what kind of movies some of the younger generation likes to listen to. So Brent, what you got, buddy? Let's hear your top 5.
Well, I would love to hear you guys take a guess of what you think my movies could be, because I think you'll probably be surprised.
Harry Potter's in there somewhere, I'm promising it.
So let me start with the honorable mentions real quick. I have 3 of them.
All right.
The Great Gatsby, the new Great Gatsby, Psycho, and The Shining. Those
Now,
are the
you talking original Psycho?
yes, original
Yes.
Alfred Hitchcock Psycho.
Yes.
And I'll talk about it if you guys want me to after.
Go for it,
And then
buddy.
The
Tell us what
Shining.
you want to tell us about it.
And then The Shining. Yeah, just a great movie. But now let's go to the top 5. Number 5, Forrest Gump.
Oh, great movie.
Number 4, The Joker, the new Joker with Joaquin
Ah.
Phoenix, the original Joker. Fantastic.
Not the sequel, but the original.
Not the sequel. Yeah, the original. Number 3, The Godfather, Part 1.
Oh,
Number 2, Goodfellas.
that gangster life on YouTube. I'm gonna tell you what.
Oh yeah.
And number 1, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
So-
All right.
All right,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Now I will say
that makes-
the Goodfellas though, that was one of my honorable mentions. I love Goodfellas.
So let me explain the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, were you going to say something quirky?
I was just going to say it doesn't need no explanation, okay? But you can go
No,
ahead
it-
and for anybody else that might need an
Oh no,
explanation.
I know what he's gonna say already,
Is-
and
is the-
it's deep.
Is
that's
it
fair.
the original
Profound
Texas
stuff.
Chainsaw Massacre or the remake?
Nah,
the
he's got to go OG,
The
baby.
original.
Yeah. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre actually is a lot deeper than what it initially seems like. So I mean, the whole story. The reason I love it so much is because number one, it's the only movie that actually scares me. Like I can watch it right now and I'll actually be scared of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Number two, just hearing the name, you think, oh, this is going to be a gore fest. There's going to be blood everywhere. There's blood. Leatherface has blood. Everything's just blood. And then you go back and watch it. Name a scene that has blood in it. There's no blood in the movie. No blood in the
Really?
movie. And the way that the director filmed it is all about making
Toby
what's in your Toby Hooper. It's all about making what's in your head scarier than what you actually see. And so a lot of the deaths in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you don't actually see. You hear the chainsaw, you hear people screaming, but you don't see it. And talking about Leatherface, he has to be one of the most interesting villains in a slasher movie. He is one of the few villains that you can have sympathy for, but at the same time, you're like, why do I feel sympathy for this person because he's murdering people? We realize it's because he has a mental illness and he feels like his parent, or it's not his parents, it's his brothers, but his brothers have left him in charge of the house to protect the house.
Right.
And he keeps seeing these people break into his house and he doesn't know what's going on. And then he murders somebody because that's what he's grown up doing. But then it messes with his head because he feels guilty for killing the person. But at the same time, he's afraid that his brothers are going to beat him for letting people in the house. And one of the best scenes is after he kills the second guy, I think, and he goes to so you have the actor and he's running around the house and he's like has his hands on his head and he's running around and he's like, and it goes to the window and he's looking out and it zooms in on his face and you just see his eyes moving around because it's trying to tell you about how nervous he is about
Right.
this whole situation. He's nervous about it.
Really?
And talking about deep, I mentioned last episode about music. So the music of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Toby Hooper went to a animal slaughterhouse, and all he did was take the noises from an animal slaughterhouse, and that's how he made the music to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it's like industrial, like because the whole point of the movie it's supposed to be if you were in a slaughterhouse, but you're the cow, and it's trying to put you in that headspace because the whole family, the whole Texas Chainsaw Massacre family are, if you want to go really deep, it's really talking about animal. I think the whole point of the movie is animal cruelty and stuff, and that's a whole different conversation. But it's supposed to be like the original brother that you, or not the original brother, the first brother that you see. He's talking about how he liked it better the old way when you could hit the animal over the head with a hammer because this new way is taking away jobs, and that's that's the start of the whole thing. And as you progress, you see like the old man. He's taught the family how to kill with the old way with the hammer to the head, and the family is like afraid to move on from that. And so it goes really deep into all of that. It's actually a really, really cool movie, and it still scares me. The way that it's shot is great. And I know it was a super low budget film. I love the idea of low budget films that kind of like Halloween that changes a a whole genre.
I think those are some of the best movies ever made. Some of these low budget films where they get out there and they have to rely on good storytelling other than camera tricks and stuff like that, you know?
Exactly. And that movie was made, like Tobe Hooper didn't think it was going to be that big of a hit. It was made so you could watch at the drive-in. And imagine watching that movie at the drive-in. I mean, you're talking about, you could just imagine being in the Texas. I mean, me and Dad went to the original house, and just imagine sitting on a Texas prairie. You're in that red hour where the sun's just going down.
Yeah.
It's all red. You can see, and that's how it's filmed. Is in that hour. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to top that movie. I know that's not going to be. I don't even know if anyone else would have that as their favorite movie. It's just more. But so does anyone want to talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Let's see this right here for a second.
Okay.
This is what people seen on TV when they were showing the preview for it. Even the preview looks creepy, you know?
Oh, and I forgot to mention.
What you got?
Yeah, even just listening to the music, you cannot tell me that that's not eerie. But the first.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, that scene that you're playing, the first time that you see Leatherface is one of the scariest scenes in movie history. You're walking in the house, you haven't seen the guy yet. Imagine you don't know what Leatherface looks like. So you just see the movie titled The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you have no idea. And you just see this creepy house. What's going on? You walk in, you see him walk into the doorway, and then what do you hear? Smacks him in the head with a hammer, and then slams the door. And slams the industrial door. And
check this out. This is what it sounded like, man. I'm pretty sure. He knocks on the door and a tooth falls out. Listen to the sound of this. That is like, I'm scared now, man, you know? What did he do? He came out and yelled at him or something, killed him, then slammed that big old metal door. Golly,
so what you realize, if you want to go talking about like going in depth, so remember when the brother meets him in the van for the first time, he says, when you hit a cow over the head, it will convulse and it'll shake. And he says don't be worried about that because they can't feel it. You know, that's just their nerves getting around. And then what happens when Leatherface hits him over the head? He starts convulsing. And so
that's deep, like, man. That's real deep.
Dad, you're on mute.
I'll tell you this. A little,
welcome back.
A little tidbit about that movie is all of the actors wasn't allowed to see what Leatherface looked like beforehand.
Yeah.
So every time that one of them would encounter Leatherface, they saw him for the first time.
Really?
So yeah, like when that dude went up there and then he tripped and then he looked up and Leatherface stepped out, that was the first time that he had seen the guy. And also with everybody else, every scene or the initial scene, whenever they would go in, Tobe Hooper said, you know, you can't see Leatherface until the scene happens, and then they got more of a real shock emotion.
That's awesome, man.
Oh yeah.
And the filming, yeah, exactly. And the filming, it was so low budget, they only had like a week, I think, or something crazy. And intentionally, they did not let any of the actors take baths, wash their clothes, none of that sort of thing. And that last scene when she's in the house and they're eating dinner and they've got the whole family together, they filmed that for 24 straight hours. And they used the footage of the last like 2 hours of it because the actress said that in a sort of way, she was really going insane during the filming of the movie. She's in a hot house because this is in the middle of summer in Texas. They haven't washed, like they haven't showered, they haven't washed the clothes. It smells, it's gross. She just wants to leave, and she's having to do this creepy thing, and then the grandfather, the actor actually, remember he something like he cuts her arm. Remember that? Well, they actually, I think it was an accident, but they actually did cut her arm, and
Really?
he actually licked her blood, like her actual blood. So this whole
Dang.
thing is all weird, and I don't know. It's just a great movie. So that's my number one.
Hey man, you know what? You have enlightened me. I didn't know that movie was that deep. I really didn't.
Oh, it's a really deep movie. It's a great movie. Like I said, me and Dad actually went to the house.
I've seen the
to
pictures. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So then my number 2 and my number 3 movies are the 2 mafia mob movies. And so I know most people are like, what? You put Goodfellas over The Godfather? What's this all about? Here's the reasoning behind that.
Let's hear it.
If you watch The Godfather, you have to be ready. It's a fantastic movie. Probably as far as like iconic, it's probably the most iconic movie, and it's what made the mob movies what they are. But if you watch The Godfather, you have to be ready to sit and pay attention to the whole movie, and you kind of need someone explaining kind of what's going on, because it does not explain it for you.
You need to watch it with me.
All of what Dad said, it does not tell you that in the movie. You have to gather that from conversations that are going on, which I love those sort of movies, but you can't like get up and go make popcorn and go and come back. Like, you've got to be willing to watch the 2.5 hour movie all the way through and kind of understand what's going on.
And I'll say this about that. Brent's right. You also are not going to be able to understand everything about that movie the first time you watch it. You will have to watch it, 2-3 times to really start understanding some of the characters and start really understanding some of the dialogue. It's not the easiest movie to watch if you've never watched it before, but it is that good. So I highly recommend it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Corky, you've got to watch that movie. Like,
And
you
this
really,
is The
really-
Godfather, right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
Godfather.
Okay.
And you have to
You
watch
guys-
part 2. I mean,
You guys have convinced me. And I want to put this out there before we move on. We have done podcasts over Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason, Michael. I'm going to go ahead and say next week, since this Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is so deep, let's do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre show next week,
Let's do
let's
it.
do it. Let's
because
do it.
I did not realize how deep that movie was. But
Yeah.
good list, Brent. Good list, Brent. All right, Dustin, you're joining us tonight, man. Got your list done, ready? Let's hear your 5.
Well, I got my list, but I went with more of growing up what I could watch and never get tired of. And this was a really, really hard list for me to do because there's so many good movies out there. But my honorable mentions, because I got a few of them. Saving Private Ryan was
Yeah, it's a great movie.
fantastic movie. It's a really long movie, but it's a really good movie. And then Independence Day, because when it came out, it was just different, especially, it was 96, I think, is when it came out. Tombstone. I'm sure everybody's seen
Oh,
Tombstone.
that's a great movie.
And then my last honorable mention would be Shooter. I could absolutely watch that movie every day.
Never heard of
Now,
that one. What's it about?
Number 5, Shooter. Oh my gosh. It's got Mark Wahlberg's in it, and they set him up.
Oh,
It's
never mind. I've
kinda
seen it.
like-
Never mind. That's
it's
where they
kinda
set
like-
him up. Does he assassinated somebody when he didn't do it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like the
Yeah.
modern day Kennedy assassination to an
Yeah, that
extent.
was a
If
good
that
movie.
was happened today, it was, you know. So now my number 5 is a newer movie, and it kind of kicked Saving Private Ryan out of my top, but Lawless. Have you ever seen Lawless?
Is that the one that's got
It's
it's
got
got
Tom Hardy in
it's got four brothers in it. One of them's Tom Hardy.
Tom
Yeah.
Hardy about the moonshine, but it's loosely based on a true story, and it was
Yeah.
wrote out of one of the brothers' journals. It is a fantastic movie.
That's a
And
good
it's all
movie.
about moonshine. And for a newer movie, you don't get it had a good storyline and details in it, and some of the newer movies just ain't got what the 80s and the early 90s does.
It also had didn't it have Matthew McConaughey in it?
No.
Which one was McConaughey in? He played one where they was a bootlegger. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know. So then my fourth one would, as a kid, I think Beetlejuice is one of the best. The original one is one of the best, and I had to put a movie in that I liked as a kid. I had to.
Yeah,
And then
Beetlejuice, you can't go wrong with that.
And then it comes down to Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon. I could watch any 4 of them movies at any time. Lethal Weapon. Now here's where it gets funny, and you just probably don't laugh at me. Number 2, and me and my dad used to watch them all the time, but my number 2 is Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Men. Have you ever seen that? I love that movie.
No,
I
I'll
have
pass,
not.
man.
I have not seen the whole thing. I have
It's
seen
got
bits and pieces.
It's got Don Johnson in it, don't it?
Mickey Rourke, Don Johnson, and Mickey Rourke. But it is a great movie, and he's and Brent's looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" But it's just one of them good cheesy late 80s, early 90s movies. They ride motorcycles.
And I thought that
They
movie
try
was
to
older
stake
than
their
that.
home bar. It might be older than that.
I don't know that it is. I was thinking that it was older than that, but it might not be.
I think it was. I can look it up. But my number 1, and you're really probably gonna like, but I could watch it all the time, is Cowboy Way.
Okay.
Hey, Daniel, Google the Kate, because we talked about this one on his podcast. Google that movie and look at the cover of it. That is the Brokeback Mountain all the way, dude.
Are you talking about the Cowboy Way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he
Yeah,
said. That's what he told me.
That's got Kiefer Sutherland and Woody Harrelson in it.
Yes.
I mean, it's a funny movie.
A really good movie, yeah. But when you're, that was one of the first movies with that, because in the very beginning, when he goes to get Woody Harrelson and he's playing Big Chief, and I probably shouldn't have been watching the movie for my age. As soon as the nudity starts, Dad throws a blanket over my face and holds my ass down on the couch under the cover until all that goes away. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then, as I got older, I realized what he was doing. But
yeah,
I'm just glad he has seen them movies, Corky. You've
Well,
lived
look.
under a rock. I haven't.
I just had it pulled up.
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man released in 1991.
Now I've probably seen some of that movie. I just don't remember it because I remember it used to come on HBO all the time. But as far as like this, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying that is your typical. I mean, check out Kiefer Sutherland on the front of that thing. He's like,
He's holding up another cover.
What kind of movie?
Which one did you look up?
But Cowboy Way,
Oh,
They
dang,
was
that
actually
movie
true.
is so homosexual, man. God.
No, it's not. You know the phrase when somebody orders a steak and they say chop its horns off, wipe its ice, and throw it in a plate? That come from that movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where all
Well,
that come from.
That's
But
the
they
first
was
time
too-
I ever heard that was in that movie. Yep.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Daniel? I mean, is it
Yeah.
a good movie? Huh.
It's not a bad movie. I saw it. in '94 when it come out. Whenever
Yeah.
I was
All
probably
I'm
15
saying
years
is,
old or something.
You can't go wrong with Woody Harrelson. He is hilarious.
and
But
also
his
you
name's
can't look at the
Pepper in that.
cover of that movie and not be like, somebody's homosexual here. That's all I'll say
You're
about
you're starting to worry me, Corky, because you talk about
You
that
do-
a lot.
it. Hey, no, don't worry about me. I'm good, baby. Praise God.
Hey, all right. So, Dustin, have you seen a movie called
He's
Next
cutting out.
of Kin?
Next of kin.
Next
That
of
sounds
Kin.
familiar.
It's
Who's that got in it?
It's got Patrick Swayze in it. It's got Bill Paxton.
Disappeared.
Dustin's having some
Who?
internet problems, I believe.
You cut out.
I cut
Yeah,
out.
it's Dustin. He's freezing every 5 minutes.
Oh, it's me?
Yeah, you're freezing real bad, buddy.
Oh, yins are disappearing and reappearing.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know
I
what's
was,
going on, but anyhow, go ahead.
You need to look up a movie
heard-
called Next of Kin.
I think I've
That's
seen
got
that.
Patrick Swayze in it. I think I've
Yes.
seen that.
It's a pretty good movie. It
1989.
sounds to me like something that you'd be interested in. It's got Liam Neeson in
I
it.
think I've seen that movie.
It's a pretty good movie.
But I've also Roadhouse was a really good movie too.
Roadhouse was a great movie.
Yeah, I liked Roadhouse.
Yeah.
I haven't
like
seen
Roadhouse.
that remake. Have anybody seen the remake of
It
it?
sucks. I
Or
didn't
did it
like
suck?
it.
Yeah. I was advised not to waste my time to watch it.
We didn't.
Yeah.
It was on Prime for free. I don't think that we actually paid money to rent it. But it sucked.
What was that guy's name that played in it as I can't think of his name, but he
That
was
was Conor McGregor.
I remember it had Conor McGregor in it.
yeah.
I don't know.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
He played the Swayze role, didn't he? Dylan Hall.
But I know Mel Gibson's supposed to be producing and filming another Lethal Weapon.
Well,
So
I
that
seen
should
him
be
on
interesting.
Joe Rogan just this last week, and his next movie is going to be the Resurrection of Christ.
Yeah, the
But
resurrection. Yeah.
his house burnt down in these fires, so ain't no telling when he'll get to making anything next. Because I know on Joe Rogan, he's like, well, I got to get out of here and see if I still got a house. And I seen in the news yesterday, his house burned. He lost everything. Of course, I'm sure he's got 3 or 4 other houses. He'll be fine.
I'm sure.
But you know. All right. Well, those are some good movies, Dustin. I crack on your Cowboy Way just because of the cover. I'm not saying it's not a good movie.
To hear Corky talk about it, I was thinking that you was going to throw out some like John Wayne stuff, and all this.
I do like John Wayne, but
Well,
read your list off one more time, Dustin. And let's get it in
let's hear
so
it
we can.
one more time.
all right. So 1 was Cowboy Way, 2 was Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, 3's Lethal Weapon, and then Beetlejuice, and then Lawless. And then the honorable mentions was Shooter, Independence Day, Tombstone, and Saving Private Ryan.
Tombstone, man, that's a hard one. Tombstone and Saving Private Ryan. That is 2 great
Really good
movies, man.
And I'll say this: I don't give a crap about westerns at all, but Tombstone is probably in my top 20 movies.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you've never seen the Young Gun movies, they're freaking good.
Young Guns.
They're all good.
Yeah. Young Guns is good too. I'll say that. All
right. I guess it's my turn now, right?
Oh yeah.
So starting off with a couple honorable mentions. First honorable mention is going to have to be Friday the 13th Part 5. Everybody hates that movie. I know why they hate that movie, but it's honestly one of my favorite movies. I got the movie of The Mask hanging right here behind me. I don't know. It's just that movie takes me to a better place. We talked about this with music the other night. How it's kind of like a time machine.
I love the poster.
What's the poster? What's the poster look like? I don't remember.
It's the really clean white mask with the red like lights coming out of it.
Yeah, with the square holes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite movie posters. Every time that I went to the movie store, any one of them. You go to the horror movie section.
Yeah.
Like I loved looking at that movie at the box. Like just the movie box was just cool.
Yeah. That's a total different hockey mask. I remember it now. That's the one with the square holes. That's epic. Got all about that. But there's also a scene in the movie where, what is the guy's name? Demon.
Yeah.
He's singing that. He's on the bathroom singing ooh baby till his fiance outside, and that's just one of the epic scenes in that movie.
That's one of the funniest scenes ever.
Yeah. So that's great. That's got to be. It's not good enough to get in my top 5, but it's definitely in my top 20. Along with a guy like Dustin said, when you start talking about war movies, man, I'd always almost have to put those in a category by themselves, because you've got movies like Platoon, Saving Private Ryan, God, We Were Soldiers.
We Were Soldiers.
Pearl Harbor.
I was about to say that.
Golly bum, all those freaking movies were good, man. And you can even go on down to what's that Mel Gibson movie? Full Metal Jacket. But what's that one where he was William Wallace? What was it called?
The Patriot.
The Patriot.
I don't think it. No, it wasn't. The Patriot's good. It was Braveheart.
Braveheart.
Oh, Braveheart. Okay.
Braveheart. Yeah.
The Patriot.
All those movies are good, man.
Patriot.
The Patriot was good too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I need to watch The Patriot. I don't think I've ever seen it. So we're gonna start off with number 5, and this movie's my number 5. You guys have not seen this movie. I'm probably one of the only couple people in the world that's seen it. But man, when I see this movie, it takes me to my childhood. I can put it on right now. This movie's so rare you can't find it on DVD.
It's called The Gates of Hell, isn't it?
It is not The Gates of Hell, but that movie would have to be up there too. This movie is called Space Camp.
Space Camp is a good movie.
Have you seen Space Camp?
I've seen Space Camp. I think it come out in about 1985 or something.
Yeah, it probably did. I'll look it up here. But yeah, that movie, I don't know how I got that movie, but it somehow I would watch it every day growing up. My mom would go to work. I would watch Space Camp and act like I was going to space every day.
Well,
so
Space Camp was one of them movies that come on HBO like all the time.
And you know what? That may have been what it was. It looks like it come out in 1986, Daniel.
Okay.
And it had it had Joaquin Phoenix in it. Yeah, it had Joaquin Phoenix in it before he became the Joker.
Yes.
What's the other chick's name? Leah Thompson. She is in it.
Yeah, Leah Thompson.
Yeah, man.
We talked about that movie on our podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, it will always, that movie, for some reason, always holds a special place in my heart. And that's just for nostalgia reasons, you know.
It is really nostalgic.
Not that it's a great movie by no means, but it is a great movie.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, if you can find it anywhere, dude, it is hard to find. But number four movie is Friday the 13th, Part 6. That movie, in my opinion, is probably the best Friday the 13th movie ever made. It was filmed in Covington, Georgia. I've been down there, visited all the sets of that movie. That's just a great freaking movie. It's the best Jason movie out there. Awesome movie. Number 4, Friday the 13th, Part 6. Let's go. Number 3, The Lost Boys. Now, The Lost Boys, it speaks for itself. I'm pretty sure probably everybody's seen The Lost Boys. Vampire flick, came out in the late 80s, maybe. What did it come out? 87, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, I think it came out in 87.
Kiefer Sutherland, the Coreys, man, awesome movie.
Jason Patrick.
So that movie was number 3. And number 2, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1. And then and everybody knows that's my number 1. You call it horror, call it slasher movie. That's the number 1. My number 1's like scary movie of all time. Although now that I'm learning all this about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's kind of, we may need to rethink that list, but we'll discuss that next week. And but number 1 movie of all time, just for nostalgia reasons, I can watch this movie right now, and I'm back in 1985, eating Cheerios, watching TV. Back to the Future. That movie, good Lord, I love that movie. I could watch it every day, never get tired of it, man. That movie's great. Yeah, that's it. Back to the
So-
Future, number one of all time.
I like Back to the Future.
So
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this, and I can't remember your exact list, Brent, but I know that between me, Corky, and Dustin, one common denominator actor was in at least one movie of everything we named was Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland is an awesome actor.
Well, I'm at a weird age to where I'm like a few years younger than Yuns, but old enough to seen a lot of the stuff from the 80s. I'll be 39 next week, so I'm not too far off. And my dad was a boomer, so I got all the old stuff and the classic rock, and dad played in the rock band, so I got all that old stuff and then some of the newer stuff. But you're probably what, in your 20s,
Yeah,
mid 20s?
I'm
Yeah,
25.
25. So you're what, 12 years younger than I am, so somewhere's right in there.
Yeah, I mean, if you've noticed from my list, I get a lot of inspiration from like dad's type of
Your
movies.
dad,
That's
yeah.
that's the type of movies. But
So-
going back to actors, I wanted to say with Quirky, Joaquin Phoenix. I had obviously the Joker was one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
He is one of my favorite actors by far. He and Willem Dafoe are my two favorite actors. Just
Yeah.
anything they're in, they're gonna make it way better than what it should be. They're really,
Yeah,
really good.
that's
Oh, yeah.
no doubt, man. Both of those guys can take a role to another level, man. They both can. Joaquin Phoenix, his role, his portrayal of the Joker in part one, and I'll say this, I don't know what they were thinking when they made part two because they had such a good thing going.
I know.
And you talking about, God, they just flushed it down the toilet, man. It's so
Yeah.
bad.
they
This
ruined
dude,
it.
I always said that what's his name was the best Joker by all time. What was his name that he died?
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger, man. That guy played an awesome Joker. I said nobody will ever beat him. But by God, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was freaking bad, son. And
And the
they
thing-
ruin it with that part two
And
movie.
the thing about the Joker, the first one, not the part two or whatever they
Yeah,
decided
God.
to call
Folly
it.
I do. It's more
Like-
like Folly I do.
You just
Hell,
you just
folks.
take
Ugh.
you can take Batman completely out of the equation, right? And you
Yeah.
look at it to where it's a movie about this guy who is having a mental breakdown and he can't get no help.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody will help him. Like if he could have got some help, he might not have, turned out the way that he did. But it's not even got anything to do with any superheroes or anything. I know that didn't he mention Bruce Wayne or something at one point?
Yeah,
I
at the
mean,
end,
Bruce Wayne is in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even if you take all of that out, it's a movie about a guy who is having a mental breakdown and he's mentally ill and he's trying to get some help and he can't get
Yeah.
no help.
Didn't it imply in the first one that he shot Bruce Wayne and his wife? Wasn't he the one? They
It was one of
implied
his.
that he.
It was one of the guys that, you know, how he started a movement with a bunch of people that felt like they were
Yeah,
being
yeah.
oppressed. It was one of those people.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but they was trying to piece it together. But they had potential, and they.
See, here's what I
all
thought they
out.
were. Here's where I thought they were going with that movie. Is you have the new Batman with the Twilight guy in it. I forget his name, but I figured, all right, we're
Robert
going to have a couple.
Pattinson.
We're going to have
Robert
Robert Pattinson. We're going to have a couple of those Batman movies. We're going to have a couple of Joker movies. Boom, they're going to collide. You know, no, never happened.
No.
I don't understand.
Not unless
I need to-
Batman gonna be in a musical.
God, what were they thinking? Even
I mean,
they had.
I mean,
they
they
had.
said
Go ahead.
Well,
I was going to say they said at the end of the movie. I mean, I don't know if you want me to get into spoilers or not, but
Nah, go ahead. We'll spoil everything for everybody. We
Yeah,
don't care.
they ain't nothing
By the
about that
end-
movie good enough to be spoiled. So.
Yeah,
at the end
nobody
of Folie
cares.
Adu, at the end of Folie Adu, they tell you that he was not the Joker because at the end, the guy that killed him, he's cut his mouth with the smile. So the
Yeah.
guy that killed him was the guy that turns into the Joker, and that he's
Really?
Ledger's version of the Joker. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
I don't know what DC has had the potential to make a series of movie like Marvel and blow it out of the water, and they just keep
Yeah.
redoing it.
And
It's like
they had it.
are
They had it
lost.
right there, buddy. They had
And
it, and they
how?
blew it.
So
How do you have the two most iconic superheroes in the world, Superman
Exactly.
and
you can't
Batman,
do anything
and
with it.
completely just
Well,
tank everything?
well,
And
the
let's be
Joker
honest.
the Joker was fantastic. I mean, it's on my top 5. It is a great movie. And then to flush it down the toilet, it was basically just a cash grab. It's like, I'll put Lady Gaga in it and let's make it a musical. Like, what are you doing? That
And
makes
they
no
got
sense.
and they got a new Superman with somebody else playing it, fixing to come out. I seen
Yeah,
the
man,
preview
they
2
did
days
Henry
ago.
Cavill wrong, man.
They done
did
him
Henry
so
Cavill
In the
wrong,
last
bro.
in that last movie, didn't they use AI or he was in it? They brought him back from the dead, but he didn't look right. Like I
I
don't
haven't
think
seen
it
it.
was him actually in the movie. I think they
Yeah, I don't
used
know.
facial recognition or something to do it, but it was terrible. The one with Wonder Woman and all of them in it.
Nah, I didn't see it, man.
Yeah, the
Because
Justice League.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
the
I
last
watched it one
Justice League.
time and it wasn't good enough to commit to memory, so I don't know. But what they done to Henry Cavill, if I'm not mistaken, because he had this big show on Netflix or what it was called The Witcher, right?
Yeah,
And if you guys don't know that storyline, The Witcher is awesome as well.
yeah, the Witch is
So
awesome.
Yeah.
didn't they tell him something about if if you're going to commit to Superman, you're going to have to be Superman. You can't do both of them, right? So he
Yeah,
quits The
something like that.
Witcher. He quits The Witcher, which was a huge show on Netflix. He quits The Witcher to say, all right, I'm going to devote myself to, I'm going to be Superman. And then after he quits The Witcher, they fire him from Superman. So he lost both roles.
So, it
So
was
that's
some
why The
BS,
Witcher
man.
only had one season, one or
No,
two
I think
seasons.
they had 2 seasons, and I think they're
I think
gonna
they had 3, didn't they?
they're gonna bring it back, but with
Oh,
another
they're bringing it
Witcher.
back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, it won't have him in it, but
And-
I think that's a stupid. Yeah, that won't work. But yeah, they done him wrong. But you take Marvel. Let's be honest. When you're growing up, you're collecting comic books, man. It's Batman and Superman.
Yeah,
And you
Yeah.
take Marvel. They got all these. They got Spider-Man and the Hulk, but like in my opinion, honestly, Iron Man and Thor, those guys were like second-rate superheroes, man.
yeah, that's
You
what
know?
I was gonna say. I was more into Spider-Man than what I was anything else when it
Any
came
of
to
the
Marvel.
others.
Yeah.
But I was when I was reading comic books and stuff, I read DC. I didn't read Marvel.
Yeah, me too.
So, I was reading all the Batman stuff. I was reading all the Superman stuff, all the different villains that, Superman had to fight. I do have several Spider-Man comic books, but, Marvel was always like my back burner stuff. I
Yeah,
was always
yeah.
DC,
Since,
Yeah, I
since you
think
mentioned,
everybody was.
since you mentioned comic books, though, we went to a yard sale one time when I was young, and I knew enough about comic books to know that the ones that they was selling was worth something. And there was 3 first 20 prints of the original Spider-Man still in the wrapper, and I got them all. I got the whole box plus them 3 for like $5. And my mom got mad at my stepdad one day and drug all of his nudies outside and burned them all, including
And your
them
comic books was in
Spider-Man.
there too, right?
Yep. Yeah, they was
Dude.
I don't know how much they was worth, but it was the original print, never been opened, still in the
Man.
package. And there was
them
there was
goddamn
3 of 'em.
stepdaddies, man.
Yeah, she burnt all of his nudie books with the comic books.
Man,
Ah,
that's crazy. Well, you guys got anything you want to add before we cut out here? We've been going. God, how does time fly when you're doing these things,
I
man?
know, man.
How
I
long
look
have
up
we
and
been going?
we're over an hour now.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
In
we
about
could
an
go
hour
on
and
for
5
more.
minutes.
We got a lot to do.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now. We get back on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'll go to 3:00 in the morning.
Shoot, man. That Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a good movie.
Yeah,
Well,
it definitely is.
I watch it every year around October, but every now and then, because the actual movie is set in August.
Yeah.
So every now and then I'll watch it in August
Oh,
instead
nice.
of Halloween.
And you know what? That remake they made back in like 06 or 07, 09 maybe. It wasn't that bad. I mean, there's nothing can top the original.
Well, so the original remake was in 2003,
Oh, okay.
and it was a good movie. It was a whole lot better. It's probably the best when it comes to remakes and reimaginings. I can't stand when they take a movie and they reimagine it and they try to add all this other crap in it.
Right.
Okay. But the one that come out 2003 was one of the first remakes that they started doing right before the remake kick really started. And it was it was still close enough to the source material that I wouldn't consider it a complete reimagining. So, like, it was just a much better remake than, what they did with Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or any of those, Now, some of the other ones that come out since then, they suck bad. But the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I like part 2. Part 2 is a comedy. It actually was in the comedy section in movie stores.
Is that the one where they based the cover off of The Breakfast Club?
Yes. Yeah. It was a comedy, but it was still a good movie. It's not the same kind of movie. And Toby Hooper, when he directed that, he was saying, "I'm not trying to make the same kind of movie."
Right.
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre had some comedic elements in it. It really did. Like,
Yeah, I feel like dark comedy.
Well, yeah, and that's what Toby Hooper was talking about. It was kind of a dark comedy, sort of, and it had a lot of parodies with the slaughterhouse, whole vibe. But he started really making fun of himself in part 2 purposely to make it a completely different movie. Now, it's nowhere near as good as what the original was, but part 2, is pretty good. Part 3 wasn't real good. Part 4 is Texas Chainsaw Generations, and that's the one with Matthew McConaughey in it. It is god awful.
Is that the one that says
the Saw is family?
Well, that started that in part 3.
Oh,
or how about the one that says, "If looks could kill, then you'd be dead"?
That's the Texas Chainsaw Generations. That movie is god awful. But after that, in 2003, they did that remake, and it kind of revitalized that whole franchise. It was because it was actually a good movie. It had Jessica Biel in it.
Yeah, it was actually pretty freaking good.
Yeah, yeah. And then they come out with the prequel, the movie that was supposed to be right before that, and it had Matt Bomer in it. And I can't remember what that girl's name was, but it was real good too. And if you have seen Full Metal Jacket, R. Lee Ermey, which was the drill sergeant, he plays the head of the Hewitt family in the Texas Chainsaw remake perfectly. He's like perfect for that role. He's awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot to these Texas Chainsaw Massacres. That's why I'm excited to let's do that show next week because let's get into it, man. I want to learn some more about
that.
these
That's my number one movie, man.
All right. Well, let's
I'm surprised that that's your number one, Brent. I figured that it would be, one of your top movies, but I didn't know that it's number one. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I was kind of proud of him. He's younger than I am, and that's his number one movie.
Hey, he was raised
But-
right. I'll say
but-
that.
Right.
Now, I'll say I haven't never heard you say any or talk about this horror movie. Now, the first one I thought was pretty good, but the other ones I didn't like very much. But what did you think about Wrong Turn?
I didn't like
I
it.
think the first one was decent. It was a good
I
concept.
like the first one, but I don't.
And then they
like
run them
rest
into the
of it.
ground. Yeah.
Yeah. Wrong Turn 1, okay, was
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
It was okay. The other ones, that's dumb as crap.
Yeah, they just ran that into the ground.
I think they was like trying to read. It was kind of like a rip off of Leatherface. Even the first one, like they had their family.
Or The Hills
and they
Have Eyes, the
hunting
original.
and-
Yeah, The Hills Have Eyes.
and then but it was decent. But I didn't like the last ones at all.
Well, the
Yeah.
one that was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre ripoff was the one that Rob Zombie did, A House of a Thousand Corpses.
And corpses, yeah.
And that's a really good movie, by the way.
Now, see,
That's a really
back
good-
when I could watch his stuff, I loved that movie. Now I can't watch it anymore, but I absolutely loved that
So
movie.
why
I
can't
did.
you watch it anymore? You just don't like it no more? Or?
Oh, you don't know about the curse, man?
No. What curse?
No,
Listen, I
what
don't even say his name, because if I listen to any of his music or watch any of his TV shows, I
Yeah.
will have the worst luck of anything.
What?
And it all started when me and Matt was supposed to go see him and Ozzy in concert. And that the day of the concert, Ozzy breaks his leg, because it was supposed to be him, Ozzy, and Mudvayne all in one concert,
I remember y'all talking about
And
that.
so I got to noticing. Now, it probably all in my head. It is what it is, But yeah, dude, I remember back in the day driving down the road, because I loved his music and everything. Dude, I remember rolling my window down and chucking every CD I had of his out into a field, because it just seemed
Rob
like
Zombie.
if I heard any of his music, I'd have bad luck. And to this day, if I'm sitting around somebody and they're listening to music and I can hear it and some of his stuff comes on, I'll jump over. I don't care who they are. I'll cut it off, and then I'll explain myself after I've done it. Seriously.
He's your Voldemort.
Well, I won't even say his name. Now I get it. I'm superstitious. I
He's
know it's
your
probably all in my
Voldemort.
head.
He who will
But-
not be named.
Well, that's what I call him. He who shall not be named. Yeah. And dude,
I-
you know, as much as I love Halloween movies, I've never seen any of his movies that he done of Halloween.
I don't like any of his movies because all of his movies is the same thing.
You
You don't
It's
like
all
The Night
about-
of a Thousand Corpses?
The House of a Thousand Corpses, I absolutely
Yeah.
loved that movie, though. It was great. I've still got it in here on DVD. I'm just
He-
too scared to watch.
He was trying to remake Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like
Yeah.
when I was watching that movie, I was like, man, this is a second-rate version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then that's why I didn't like it.
And
I'm
another
sure-
problem. Go ahead.
I'm sure that it was as far as horror movies go, I'm sure that there wasn't anything wrong with it, and it was a good movie in its own right. I just didn't like it because I looked at it like it was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre ripoff.
Right, I
And-
can
and
see
I-
that.
I thought See No Evil was a pretty decent horror movie with Kane in it. It wasn't too bad. I thought the
It was-
storyline was pretty decent.
None of those movies are supposed to be award-winning movies. I mean,
Yeah.
No.
you watch them, they are what they are.
But-
I didn't
it was
mind
different.
See No Evil.
Oh,
I
at
didn't-
first I thought you said Speak No Evil, the new movie. Like, that's a good movie.
No,
too.
no.
No,
See
See No Evil
No
was the
Evil.
one with Kane in it, and he was this old dude that lived in this building, and he killed people with a chain or something. It
Yeah,
was weird.
All right. Well, hey, good show, guys. Hey, listen, next week we're going to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So everybody look forward to that.
Be ready for
Hey.
that, baby.
Yeah. Dustin, thanks for coming on, man. And we'll do it again in the future. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah, they tuned in, it's the Dude Bash rolling deep. Mic check like that, fine, let's hit a beat. Voices flowing like the river, knowledge on the spree. Every episode of Journey, come ride with me. Just hit play, it's a vibe, can't you see? The dude bash, we breaking it down from the underground.